You're about to make one of the biggest financial mistakes of your retirement, and you think you're being smart. You've told yourself downsizing is the responsible move. Sell the big house, pocket the cash, move somewhere smaller, reduce expenses. It sounds logical. It sounds like what every financial advisor recommends. But here's the brutal truth most people won't tell you. Downsizing can absolutely destroy your retirement. And by the time you realize it, it's too late to undo. I'm Larry Ellison, American billionaire, founder of Oracle, and someone who spent decades watching people make catastrophic money decisions because they followed conventional wisdom instead of doing the actual math. And what I'm about to show you isn't theory. It's the hidden cost structure, the tax traps, and the psychological destruction that comes with downsizing at the wrong time or for the wrong reasons. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly when downsizing makes sense, when it's financial suicide, and how to know the difference before you sign anything. If you're serious about protecting your wealth and not hemorrhaging money in your 60s and 70s, subscribe right now, because this channel exists to give you the financial reality no one else will. Let me destroy the most dangerous assumption you're making right now, that moving to a smaller home automatically means less expense. It doesn't. In fact, for most retirees, downsizing is the financial equivalent of lighting a pile of cash on fire while convincing yourself you're being responsible. Here's what actually happens when you sell your home. Let's say you're sitting on a $400,000 house that's paid off. You think, I'll sell this, buy something for $250,000, pocket $150,000, and reduce my monthly costs. Sounds logical, right? Wrong. You're about to walk into a financial meat grinder. First, you're going to pay a realtor 5 to 6% to sell your home. On $400,000, that's $24,000 gone immediately. Then there are closing costs on the sale, title insurance, transfer taxes, attorney fees, another $3,000 to $5,000. You haven't even moved yet, and you're down $28,000. Now you're buying the new place. More closing costs, $4,000 to $7,000. Inspection fees, appraisal fees, moving costs. If you're moving across town, that's $2,000 to $5,000. If you're moving across the country, double it. But here's where it gets worse. That $250,000 home you just bought, it's never move-in ready. You're 65 years old. You need grab bars in the bathroom. The carpet smells like the previous owner's cat. The kitchen is from 1987. You're about to spend $15,000 to $40,000 making this place livable for your needs. So your $150,000 profit just became $70,000 if you're lucky. And you hemorrhaged $80,000 in transaction costs and immediate renovations. Now let's talk about your monthly expenses, the part where you're supposed to be saving money. Your old house was paid off. Property taxes were $3,000 a year. No HOA. Utilities were $200 a month because you knew that house inside and out. You knew how to keep costs low. Your new, smaller home? Property taxes in that desirable retirement community are $4,500 a year because the area has newer infrastructure and higher school funding. You've got a $300 a month HOA fee because the community has a pool, landscaping, and a clubhouse you'll never use. Your utilities are $250 a month because the house is new construction with terrible insulation and you're still figuring out the HVAC system. You're paying $100 a month for pest control because you're in Florida now and the palmetto bugs are the size of small cars. Let me do the math for you. Your old monthly costs: $250 property taxes, $200 utilities. Total, $450 a month. Your new monthly costs: $375 property taxes, $300 HOA, $250 utilities, $100 pest control. Total, $1,025 a month. You're paying $575 more per month. That's $6,900 a year. Over 20 years of retirement, that's $138,000. And that's before we factor in inflation or special assessments from your HOA. You move to a smaller home and you're spending more money. This is the line nobody tells you. Smaller doesn't mean cheaper. Different doesn't mean better. You traded a paid-off asset you understood for a new expense structure that's bleeding you dry. And here's the psychological trap. You can't admit you made a mistake. You've already spent $80,000 on the transition. You've already told your friends and family this was the smart move. So you just absorb the financial pain every single month and pretend it's fine. You're locked in. But here's what you need to understand before we go further. The transaction costs are just the beginning. Wait until you see what the IRS is about to do to you. Now let's talk about the tax ambush that's waiting for you. The one your real estate agent conveniently forgot to mention because they're not tax professionals and they don't care what happens to you after the commission check clears. You've heard about the capital gains exclusion. If you're single, you can exclude $250,000 of gain. If you're married, $500,000. You think you're covered. But here's what you don't understand. That exclusion is based on your gain, not your sale price. And most retirees have no idea how much their home has actually appreciated, or what happens when they've blown past that exclusion threshold. Let's say you bought your home in 1995 for $150,000. You're selling it today for $700,000. Your gain is $550,000. You're married, so you get to exclude $500,000. That leaves $50,000 of taxable gain. At long-term capital gains rates, let's say 15% federal plus 5% state, you're paying $10,000 in taxes. That's $10,000 you weren't planning on. But it gets worse. If you're in California, New York, New Jersey, or any other high-tax state, your state capital gains rate could be 10 to 13%. Now you're paying $13,000 to $14,000 in taxes on that $50,000 gain. And if your total income for the year pushes you into a higher bracket because of this sale, your federal rate jumps to 20%. You're looking at $15,000 to $18,000 gone to taxes. But here's the real killer that nobody sees coming. IRMA, Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. It's the penalty Medicare charges you when your income spikes. That home sale you just made, it counts as income for Medicare purposes. If your modified adjusted gross income goes over $206,000 as a married couple, and a big capital gain can easily push you over, your Medicare Part B and Part D premiums skyrocket. Instead of paying $174 per month for Part B, you're now paying $244, $349, $454, or even $559 per month per person, depending on how far over you go. That's an extra $2,000 to $9,000 per year in Medicare premiums for the next 2 years because Medicare looks at your income from 2 years prior. You sold your house in 2024 and you're getting financially punished for it in 2026 and 2027. And let's talk about Social Security taxation. Right now, maybe 50% of your Social Security is taxable because your income is modest. But that capital gain from your home sale, it pushes you into the zone where 85% of your Social Security becomes taxable. You just increased your tax bill on money you thought was safe. Here's a real scenario. You're collecting $36,000 a year in Social Security. Before the home sale, $18,000 of that was taxable. After the sale and the income spike, $30,600 is taxable. That's an extra $12,600 of taxable income you weren't planning on. At a 22% marginal rate, that's another $2,772 in federal taxes. Add state taxes, and you're looking at $3,000 to $3,500 in additional taxes just because you sold your house. Do you see what's happening? You thought you were making a smart financial move. Instead, you triggered a cascade of tax consequences that are bleeding you from multiple directions simultaneously. The IRS got you, Medicare got you, your state got you, and you're sitting there wondering why your downsizing profit evaporated. Now, here's what makes this truly devastating. Most retirees do this math after they've already signed the contract. They're in escrow when their accountant calls and says, "Do you realize what this is going to cost you?" By then, it's too late. You're locked in. The damage is done. But the financial damage isn't even the worst part. Wait until you understand what this move does to your mind, your body, and your will to live. Let me tell you what nobody warns you about. Downsizing doesn't just cost you money, it costs you your identity, your mental health, and potentially years of your life. And by the time you realize it, you can't undo it. You're not just selling a house. You're selling the place where you raised your kids, where you hosted Thanksgivings for 30 years, where your grandchildren learned to ride bikes in the driveway, where you buried pets in the backyard, where every room holds a memory that defines who you are. You think you're ready to let that go. You think you're being logical and practical. You're not. You're about to amputate part of your identity, and the pain doesn't hit until after the closing. There's a study from the Journal of Housing for the Elderly that found nearly 40% of retirees who downsize experience significant regret within the first 2 years. 40%. And the regret isn't just, "Oh, I miss my old kitchen." It's clinical depression. It's anxiety. It's lying awake at night wondering if you destroyed the last chapter of your life by making a decision you can't reverse. You move into your new, smaller home, and suddenly you don't have space for your kids and grandkids to visit for the holidays. They can't stay with you anymore, so they don't come as often. You tell yourself it's fine, but it's not fine. You're slowly being erased from the center of your family's life. You went from the gathering place to the people who get visited out of obligation twice a year. And let's talk about your social network, the one you spent 30, 40, 50 years building. Your neighbors who check on you, your poker group, your church community, your local coffee shop where the barista knows your order. You think you'll make new friends in your new area. You're 68 years old. Do you know how hard it is to build genuine friendships at 68? You're not in school. You're not in an office. You're the new person in a community where everyone else has known each other for a decade. You're isolated, and isolation in your 60s and 70s is a death sentence. The research is brutal. Social isolation increases your risk of dementia by 50%. It increases mortality risk by 29%. You moved to save money, and what you actually did was cut yourself off from the social infrastructure that was keeping you alive. You traded financial efficiency for human connection, and that trade is killing you slowly. Now let's talk about healthcare, because this is where downsizing can go from regrettable to catastrophic. You lived in a major metro area. You had access to world-class hospitals 15 minutes away. Your cardiologist, your oncologist, your primary care doctor, they were all local, and you had relationships with them spanning decades. They knew your history. They knew your body. You downsized to a cheaper area, 2 hours away from the city. It's beautiful. It's quiet. It's affordable. And when you have a heart attack, the nearest hospital with a cardiac catheterization lab is 90 minutes away. When you need a specialist for your prostate cancer, you're driving 3 hours round trip for every appointment. When you develop Parkinson's and need a movement disorder specialist, the closest one is 4 hours away and not taking new patients. You saved $500 a month on housing costs. You're now spending $800 a month on gas, hotel rooms, and meals because every medical appointment is an all-day ordeal. You're exhausted, you're stressed, and stress accelerates every chronic condition you have. Here's what I need you to understand. Your home isn't just a financial asset. It's the physical and emotional foundation of your entire life. And when you rip that foundation out from under yourself to chase a smaller mortgage or lower property taxes, you're not making a financial decision. You're making a life or death decision. You're gambling that the money you save will be worth the health you lose, the relationships you damage, and the regret you'll carry until you die. Most people lose that bet. So when does downsizing actually make sense? And what are the alternatives if you're drowning financially but can't afford to make this mistake? Let's get to the truth. Downsizing isn't always wrong. But it has to be done for the right reasons, at the right time, with complete understanding of the real costs. So let me give you the framework to make this decision correctly. Because if you get this wrong, there's no do-over. Downsizing makes sense in exactly 3 scenarios. First, you're physically unable to maintain your home, and you can't afford to pay someone else to do it. Your house needs a new roof, new HVAC, foundation work, and you're looking at $50,000 to $80,000 in deferred maintenance you simply don't have. The stairs are becoming dangerous. The yard is too much. You're one fall away from a broken hip, and your home is actively threatening your safety. In that case, yes, downsize. Your life is worth more than your house. Second scenario, your home equity is the only retirement funding you have left, and you've run completely out of time. You're 72 years old, you have $40,000 in savings, no pension, Social Security covers $1,800 a month, and your expenses are $3,200 a month. You're bleeding $1,400 a month, and you'll be broke in 2 years. Your home is worth $500,000, and it's paid off. You have no other choice. Downsize, extract that equity, invest it conservatively, and use the income to survive. It's not ideal, but it's better than being destitute at 75. Third scenario, you're moving to a genuinely lower cost of living area, and you've done the complete math, not the fantasy math, the real math. You're leaving California, where your property taxes are $8,000 a year, and moving to Tennessee, where they'll be $2,000 a year. You're leaving a state with 9% income tax for one with 0 income tax. You've calculated healthcare access, you've visited multiple times, you have family or friends already there, and after transaction costs, taxes, and all fees, you're still saving a minimum of $1,000 a month. Then yes, it makes sense. But here's the threshold you need to remember. If your true monthly savings after all costs, property taxes, HOA, insurance, utilities, maintenance, healthcare travel, is less than $800 to $1,000 a month, it's not worth it. You're taking on massive psychological risk, uprooting your entire life, and severing your social connections for what amounts to $9,600 to $12,000 a year. That's not enough to justify the damage. Now let me give you the alternatives, because for most of you, there's a better solution than downsizing. First, reverse mortgage. Yes, I know what you've heard, but if you're over 62, your home is paid off, and you need cash flow without selling, a reverse mortgage can give you a line of credit or monthly payments while you stay in your home until you die. You're tapping equity without the transaction costs, without the tax hit, without the move. It's expensive, but it's often cheaper than downsizing when you do the real math. Second alternative, rent out part of your home. You've got a basement or a guest suite? Rent it for $800 to $1,500 a month. That's $9,600 to $18,000 a year in income without selling anything. Yes, you're giving up privacy, but you're staying in your community, keeping your healthcare access, and generating income from an asset you already own. Third alternative, adult children move in and share costs. I know, it's not the dream, but if your kids are struggling with rent and you're struggling with expenses, combine households. They pay you $1,000 a month, help with maintenance, and you cut your isolation risk in half. It's practical, it's financially smart, and it keeps your family close. Fourth, home equity line of credit. If you need liquidity but don't want to sell, open a HELOC. Borrow against your equity only when you need it, pay interest only on what you use, and keep your home. It's a bridge solution while you figure out a longer-term plan. Here's my final word on this. If you're downsizing because you're terrified, because a financial advisor told you to, or because you think it's what you're supposed to do in retirement, stop. Do the real math. Factor in every cost I've shown you. Consider the psychological and healthcare risks. And if the numbers still make sense and your reasons are sound, then move forward. But if you're downsizing to chase some fantasy of simplicity, or because you're running from the responsibility of owning a larger home, you're making a catastrophic mistake. You're going to spend the next 10 years of your life regretting a decision you can't undo, bleeding money you can't recover, and isolated from the life you spent decades building. Your home is more than square footage. It's your foundation. Treat it that way. If this video saved you from a $250,000 mistake, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want more brutal financial honesty that actually protects your retirement. And drop a comment telling me, are you still planning to downsize, or did I just change your mind? I read every single one.